Welcome back to Morning Joe at 24 past the hour. Here with us now, Republican Senator from Wyoming, Senator John Barrasso, and Democratic Senator from Delaware, Senator Chris Coons. They're both members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. A lot to talk about this morning, especially as the United Nations General Assembly kicks off this week. You have a piece, Senator Barrasso, in Politico about the Middle East and how the president really needs to explain what he plans to do to provide leadership. I'm assuming you think he hasn't.
Well, absolutely. Take a look at what he said 4 years ago and where we are now. He said that he was going to negotiate with Iran. Iran is now a lot closer to a nuclear weapon than they've ever been before. He said he was going to hit the reset with Russia. Russia has absolutely been blocking us step by step, especially with regards to what's happening now in a number of places around the world. He said that the relationship with the Islamic world was going to be very different.
Well, let's go back to Iran. What would you be doing differently right now? What hasn't been done with Iran specifically, especially in the form of sanctions?
Well, and Chris and I have voted together for sanctions, and the president actually has lobbied against a number of those sanctions along the way. He has opposed the Senate on a number of sanctions. But with regard to Iran, the president said he was going to negotiate with Iran, open a dialogue. He may have gone with an open hand, but they've met him with a clenched fist, and none of the things that he said were going to happen because of his election and his personality and his background were actually going to, I think, have made matters worse. We're not treated with the kind of respect that he said we were going to be treated with. Even earlier this year at a fundraiser in Los Angeles, he said one of his greatest accomplishments is the way that the United States is now respected around the world, and we are not seeing that in the Middle East.
I do believe that candidate Obama, Senator Obama, committed to responsibly ending the war in Iraq and has done so, to taking the fight to al-Qaeda and its leadership and has done so successfully. And in the Middle East, some of the positions that were taken by candidate Obama have evolved over the last few years. And I think on Israel's security, on standing up to Iran, and on imposing crippling sanctions, there's not an inch of daylight between the president and the interests of Israel. I don't think that's an open hand, Senator Barrasso. I feel like this is a narrative the Republicans are setting up to try and make a president who is actually extremely strong on foreign policy to the point where he trumps the Republican Party in their positions and their policies, to try and set up some sort of apologist narrative that people might buy into.
Well, our friends can't trust us, our enemies don't fear us, and right now, and Senator Kerry brought this up in the Foreign Relations Committee just the other day, Iran is flying over Iraqi airspace, delivering into Syria supplies there to be used in horrible ways against people, great atrocities, and there is nothing that the United States is doing about it because we've given up. Well, we have given up control of the airspace. We should have left troops on the ground. The president should have listened in Iraq to the military leaders that said, don't pull out everyone, leave troops on the ground. And I think that was a mistake, that the president was going by political deadlines rather than a goal that would be in the best interest of the United States.
I disagree. I think the president and Secretary Clinton have led very strongly on engaging on Syria. I think it's critical that we jointly, Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and the candidates for president, send a strong message about a shared position on opposition to what Assad is doing in Syria, on the massacres that are occurring in Aleppo and Damascus. And I do think that Secretary Clinton, you'll see later this week, leading a meeting of the Friends of Syria and leading multilateral, robust and muscular engagement in the region.
Senator Coons, let me pick up on something, on a criticism that Senator Barrasso just made, which is about the reset with Russia. And let's be realistic here. Russia's standing in the way of doing anything in Syria.
That's right.
Okay. That's the bottom line. That's a foreign policy failure on the president's part. Why? What happened?
Well, I do think that Russia and China are responsible for hijacking the Security Council, for preventing responsible action
stood in the way in some, not just Syria, but they've stood in the way in Iranian sanctions, dragged their feet. We don't
Absolutely
know.
Dragged their feet.
So the reset of Russia hasn't worked. Why?
That's right. I think that's because of calculations that Putin's made internally about his own domestic politics. I think it's partly about the leadership in Russia feeling that their diminished role in the world pushes them to act more aggressively. I do think this president and the Secretary of State and Vice President have been effective and engaged in pushing back and in building a multilateral coalition, in engaging in areas of the world where we've been able to lead and we've been able to strengthen our alliances and our partnerships. I've heard recently from the ambassador to the United States from Israel that the U.S.-Israel security relationship is the strongest it's ever been. So this narrative that somehow our allies don't trust us, that there's distance, that there's weakness, that our president's an apologist, I don't believe, and I don't think there's evidence for that.
Well, the president wants to have more flexibility. I mean, that's what he said to the president of Russia. Wait till after the election.
All right, but that sounds like a talking point. But do you really think
Russia?
Do you think Putin will respond somehow in a better way if you bully him?
No.
I mean, it seems to be what Mitt Romney is probably.
Let's go to him with a clenched
Yeah, I mean, it's
what I'm saying is the president made a number of things. China is now working around Iranian sanctions. They're moving money to Iran. And just what we're seeing is very different from what the president promised the American people 4 years ago. With it, this whole way that the United States would be looked at would be very different, and it's not happening.
Bluntly, the United States is strongest when the Senate acts in a bipartisan and responsible way. By a vote of 99-1, we clarified that the Senate is opposed to a policy of containment with regards to Iran and the acquisition of nuclear weapons. I think probably the worst moment of this entire presidential campaign for Governor Romney was when he tried to take advantage of the tragedy in Benghazi to advance his own campaign. We are better off when we act together, as we have in working to support the ratification of the rights of the Convention for the Rights of the Disabled. We will do better as a nation if we show a united and strong face to the rest of the world, and if we refuse to allow extremists, whether they're in Iran or Syria, to hijack the steady movement towards freedom and towards progress in the Middle East.
And we voted the same on a number of these things, but when the president calls what happened with the murder of our ambassador, as he did last night, just a bump in the road, I think that really is. But I just that's what he called it. That's what he said. He called it a bump.
But I want to pick up on something Senator Coons just said, and it's the whole idea of working together and coming together. Now, let's look at the relationship between Israel and the United States. And Senator Barrasso, you've had the president out here saying, you know, that I talk to Netanyahu a lot, you know, we're buddies, you know, we're BFFs on the phone, you know, we talk to each other. Is that enough? What is the problem that a lot of Republicans have, particularly in the Senate, with the position, or at least rhetorically, that this administration has taken when it comes to the state of Israel?
Well, I think Israel is our closest friend and ally, and what the president said last night, it is one of our, close friends and allies. I think that this is the rockiest relationship now between the United States and Israel ever. I think the president should have met with Netanyahu this week in the United Nations. It would have been easy to do. So I think that that's the way you show that you're friends. You don't continue to distance from them. And I think that's a mistake on the part of the president.
Senator, I mean, in your perspective, it's a little bit different.
Whether he said our closest or one of our closest is missing the larger point, which is that on the ground, the reality of the U.S.-Israel security relationship is the strongest it's ever been. Our alliance in fighting terrorism, our alliance in ensuring Israel's right to defend itself, our alliance in advocating for a pro-Israel policy in the Middle East, I think is the strongest it's ever been. That's what really matters, not who's scheduling secretary returned whose phone call, not whether we are clear and unanimous in recognizing that Israel is our most important and closest ally. In the Senate, we've managed to find a way to work together and to speak with one voice. It is my hope that in the remaining weeks of this presidential this presidential campaign, that we won't see needless bickering over very fine points that send the wrong signal in a region in real turmoil. It is my hope we'll step up and find leadership to tackle the challenges in Mali, in Somalia, in Syria, in Iran, and elsewhere.
Senator Barrasso, you agree these are tumultuous times, and it would be dangerous to try and dig in too deep in the weeks before an election?
My editorial says the president needs to do a couple of things, and one of the things he needs to do is say at the United Nations, when he says to the people of Israel, we have your back, he needs to say what that actually is, and we need to know what his foreign policy is, because it's very different than the high aspirations he had 4 years ago.
Senator Barrasso and Senator Coons, thank you both very much. A great conversation. Still ahead, Senior Obama campaign advisor David Axelrod will join us on set. More Morning Joe in just a moment.